Henry Ford did not just build a car, he built a system, and that system reshaped the modern world. In 1908, Ford launches the Model T. Simple, durable, affordable. Not a toy for the rich, but a machine for the masses. The real revolution begins 5 years later. In 1913, at Highland Park, Michigan, Ford introduces the moving assembly line. Before this moment, cars were built like carriages. Teams worked around a single chassis, craft-based, complex, slow. It took more than 12 hours to assemble one Model T. Ford flips the logic. Instead of workers moving to the car moves to the workers. The chassis advances down a line. Tasks are broken into smaller and smaller actions. Each worker performs one movement over and over again. Time collapses. 12 hours becomes 6, then 3, then 90 minutes. Ford did not invent mass production, but he industrialized time itself. He took complexity and sliced it into repeatable fragments. He turned craftsmanship into sequence. He transformed human labor into rhythm. This was not just an improvement, it was a new operating system for the 20th century. The Model T becomes cheaper every year. In 1908, it costs around $850. Within a decade, the price drops below $300. For the first time, middle-class families can afford a car. That is not just business success, it is social transformation. Roads expand, suburbs grow, distance shrinks. The American landscape bends around Ford's system. Ford makes a decision that reveals everything about how he thinks. Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants so long as it is black. It sounds arrogant. It wasn't. Black paint dried faster. Faster drying meant faster throughput. Faster throughput meant lower costs. Lower costs meant scale. Choice was inefficiency. Uniformity was power. Ford did not optimize the car. He optimized the flow. But there was a problem. The assembly line worked. Humans didn't. The work was repetitive, mind-numbing, physically draining. Turnover exploded. In 1913, Ford needed tens of thousands of hires just to maintain a workforce of a little over 10,000. Men quit. They walked out. They burned out. The machine was efficient. The humans were not. In January 1914, Ford makes his most controversial move. He doubles wages to $5 a day. At a time when the average factory worker earned less than half that, the press calls him a genius, a humanitarian, a visionary capitalist. But look closer. Ford was not just being generous, he was stabilizing the system. Higher wages reduced turnover. Lower turnover meant higher productivity. Higher productivity meant more profit. The $5 day was not charity, it was engineering. Ford understood something radical. If you want mass consumption, your workers must become consumers. Pay them enough to buy the product they build. The system feeds itself. Brilliant. But there was another layer. Ford installed a Sociological Department. Investigators visited workers' homes. They monitored drinking habits, family life, spending behavior. To receive the full $5, you had to live properly. Efficiency extended beyond the factory walls. Ford wasn't just optimizing labor, he was optimizing lives. For a while, it worked. By 1921, Ford controls roughly 60% of the American automobile market. 60%. The Model T is everywhere. Farmers, teachers, shopkeepers. The world runs on Ford's tempo. Then something shifts. Consumers change. They want variety, style, status, color. General Motors sees this. Alfred Sloan introduces annual model changes, different price tiers, different aesthetics. Choice becomes strategy. Ford resists. He believes in standardization, in scale, in efficiency above all. The Model T remains largely unchanged for years. The machine that once accelerated history begins to lag behind it. Production remains strong, but demand softens. The very system that made Ford dominant makes him rigid. Uniformity becomes limitation. Scale becomes inertia. He had perfected repetition, but the market wanted evolution. In 1927, after nearly 20 years, Ford finally halts Model T production. 15 million units sold. An extraordinary achievement. But by then, General Motors has taken the lead. The king of efficiency had underestimated adaptability. This is the paradox of Henry Ford. He democratized mobility. He redefined manufacturing. He made the modern middle class mobile. And yet, the logic that made him unstoppable made him inflexible. Ford believed in one best way, one system, one rhythm, one optimized path. But markets are not assembly lines. They shift, they fragment, they evolve. The man who industrialized time struggled when time moved on without him. Mass production was not just about factories. It became the blueprint for the 20th century. Standardized education, standardized suburbs, standardized consumer culture. Ford didn't just build cars. He built the architecture of scale. From Amazon warehouses to fast fashion to algorithmic feeds that slice attention into repeatable units, we are still living inside Ford's idea. Break complexity into parts. Optimize each part. Repeat at scale. The question is not whether it works. It clearly does. The question is what it costs. Monotony, rigidity, loss of variation. Henry Ford proved that efficiency can reshape society. But he also proved something else. If you optimize too perfectly for one world, you may struggle when the world changes. He built a machine that ran flawlessly until the future demanded something different. The strength that makes you dominant can become the weight that slows you down. Henry Ford industrialized time. He built straight lines, precision, repetition. But what happens when speed isn't about efficiency, but about emotion? While Ford was optimizing factories, the Mack family in Germany was building something very different. Not cars, roller coasters. They didn't design systems to remove unpredictability. They engineered it. Drops, curves, acceleration, fear. Controlled, calculated, sold. Ford made movement affordable. The Macks made it unforgettable. And their story proves that sometimes the real business isn't efficiency, it's adrenaline. Now I want to hear from you. Which founder, company, or rise and fall story should we cover next? Drop your ideas in the comments, and it might just become the next episode of The Founder Files.